All right, I'll just, yeah, welcome everyone. This is the, I guess, inaugural meeting of the Alternative Communications Patterns Feature Group for Cluster API. That's quite a mouthful, so have to maybe come up with something shorter. A bit like the office hours, we will abide by the CNCF Code of Conduct, and that just basically means, just be nice to each other. I will put a link into the meeting notes. So these meeting notes are linked from the Cluster API master meeting notes, but I will put this into the chat window as well. So there should be a section for the attendee list. If you could just add your names there like usual, that would be wonderful. I can start with host. Cool. So probably the best way to start would be maybe doing a round table of all of us, just to say hi, and I guess why we're interested in this feature group. So as there's, there's 5 of us. We can either just randomly do it, or I can just pick people from the list, the attendees. So whatever works best. I'll go for the attendee list. You don't have to speak, obviously, but yeah, it'd be good to capture why people are interested in this. So yeah, Florian, did you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Florian. Hello. I'm with AWS, and we have some use cases where this would be handy in AWS. To be totally honest, there were some priority shifts, so I don't know how relevant at this time it is for us right now, but definitely interested and want to move this forward.
Yeah, I can go next since I'm next to Florian's name. I'm Yammer. I'm also a software engineer at Amazon, and exactly the same reasons as Flo said. So yeah, we've had some use cases where we saw the need for this sort of reverse proxy communication pattern kind of thing. We've been thinking about this a lot internally. So yeah, trying to like figure out how that works. A little bit broader than just what we have as well, or what we're taking off as well.
Cool. Dimitri, do you want to go next?
Yep. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Dimitri from Data IQ. We had actually kind of a POC with a customer exploring some of this thing where, yeah, didn't have direct connection to the workload cluster, and yeah, just interested in this effort. And kind of getting it into CAPI core.
Nice. And then Martin.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Dimitri's colleague, also from D2IQ, and I'm pretty new to CAPI, but I was working on our internal implementation of this proxy tunneling feature that is not limited to the CAPI, but in general, how to connect 2 clusters if there is a firewall between them. So have some experience there.
Yeah, cool. And I guess from my side, I'm coming to this feature group really because I work on Rancher now, and we are putting or looking at putting CAPI into Rancher, and Rancher works already on this by using this reverse communication pattern for an agent that's actually in the tenant cluster. So we sort of, if we want to introduce CAPI into Rancher properly, we have to solve this problem as well, or at least introduce it. Cool. So I put some discussion topics in the document here. So feel free to add any of your own topics. So I thought it would be good to, I guess, agree how we work as a group. So I also attend the, I guess, the Managed Kubernetes feature group, and these calls are quite light touch. They're just really just a check in, say, hey, this is what we're doing on the proposal, or these are the areas that we're investigating, and then we keep it at that. But so yeah, it'd be good to get people's opinions on how this group should work, because you know, there's multiple use cases that we've put into the, I guess, the charter for this feature group. But yeah, just wondering what people's thoughts are. Any particular preferences for ways of working?
I don't know how it usually works. I'm not too familiar with the copy project, but do you also in other feature groups like discuss technical ideas, technical approach, things like that in those meetings, or is that all async in proposals, GitHub, etc.?
So on the managed side, on the managed Kubernetes feature group, we do most of it async, but in the meetings, if there's like something important that someone wants to bring up, they'll discuss it there and then just carry on with async after that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Let me keep a note of this. I guess what's your preferences? Would you actually like to do, I guess, that type of approach, or would you actually prefer to do more like brainstorming and actually working through problems as a group on a call?
Hard to say for me. I don't really have experience too much with the async approach, to be honest. So I guess we'll have to give it a try. And yeah, I don't know what others think. I think it could be valuable sometimes to just get maybe a bit of a high level alignment quickly within a sync meeting, but obviously everything needs to be documented. Everybody needs to know what we were discussing. So I guess there will always be the async part as well, or at least the written form as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, and the other thing is it's never set in stone, is it? So if, you know, it can change as we progress through the feature group. Cool. So I guess another good topic that may actually feed into this in the first instance is, has everyone read the, I guess, the charter for the feature group on the PR? Let me just bring that up as well. I actually think it's merged now, I think, as of yesterday. Yeah, it did. Yeah. So yeah, so I guess probably the main thing here is the, I guess, the user story stroke problem statement and the scope. So there are, I guess, 3 distinct scenarios that we list here. So I don't know if people have more interest in one of those. I know that on the discussion on this PR, a lot of people said, you know, user story 3 was of interest to them. So that's the scenario where the management cluster and the workload clusters are in different networks, and they don't necessarily have direct connectivity from the management to the network of the workload cluster. And I know, Florian, you raised the case with the infrastructure side where the infrastructure is completely private.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good add-on here, thinking also through that case, because like obviously for a provider like AWS, there is not really a distinction, right? Like the AWS control plane is always publicly reachable. So the management cluster should always have connectivity to that one. But if you think of providers like vSphere, the customer might have like a a local vSphere installation where the endpoint for the management for the control plane is private as well. So I think it would be interesting to explore how can we expose those endpoints to a management cluster, which is in a different network.
Yeah, I guess that's not explicitly called out as it's sort of hinted at in these user stories, isn't it? But it's not explicitly called out. Yeah, okay.
Sorry, can you explain how that's different from number 3?
I think it's not really different. It's just more clarifying that also for private infrastructure control plane endpoints, because like in one scenario, let's say you would need, for example, you would only support providers that have a public infrastructure control plane endpoint, then you will not need a bastion host or something like that, because you can essentially start creating machines right away and then can provision something on those machines which establishes the tunnel. But if you need like a connectivity to a vSphere or something, you need something starting in that network, which establishes the connection, and then you can go from there.
Gotcha, thanks.
Yeah, I think a part of number 3 here as well is also the operations that CAPI providers perform against workload clusters. So, you know, a lot of them get a client, connect to the workload cluster, and then perform some sort of operation. Like the AWS provider will configure the IAM authenticator config map, so it makes changes to that, and it assumes that it can do that, and sort of it will fail without that. But yeah, I guess pretty similar. That's good. That's a good thing, and we should call out as well. So on that note, so this was the original project or feature group charter. So then we should start capturing more concrete and more detailed user stories and refinement of this in what will then become a proposal. Would people agree with that? Yeah. Okay. I will be adding notes to the meeting notes doc after this. I just I struggle to do both at the same time. Cool. Okay. So we can do that. So did we, as a group, so we can obviously create the document, start doing the proposal, start investigating. Did we want to, I guess, split the user stories up between people and do some pre-investigation and start, you know, putting stuff into the document for the next for discussion later on?
Sure.
Yeah, because there is also, just so everyone's aware, there is actually linked in here. There should be right at the top here. There is a notes by various people. So I know Florian, you contributed to this, and Nadir. So Nadir was the person that sort of raised the original issue with this. So some people have started to add notes into this. You know, where connections to workload clusters are used by the various providers. So we do have some prior art, don't we?
Yeah, I don't know if this is too early, but I think on a high level, we sort of two pretty different ideas of how to solve this. One would be the reverse tunnels, and the other option was to change the model of how CAPI operates when it wants to talk to the API server and things like that, to a more evented model where CAPI would publish those things on the requests essentially that it needs to, or would publish instructions that it needs from, for example, the API server in some form to an event system. And then the nodes can essentially pull that in and act on those events. I don't know if this is still a very relevant idea. Just looking at the high-level usages of how many use cases in the providers and in copy we have that actually assume connectivity to the workload cluster, this change sounds like a pretty major refactoring. There are also some edge cases raised, like with etcd. You need to act on pretty up-to-date information. Like, for example, if you ask etcd about can I bring down a node? Like, are there enough nodes that it's safe to bring down a node? Then you need to kind of be certain that this information is up to date before you act. So there were some challenges around those things. So from my perspective, I'm not sure if it's still relevant, but would be very happy to hear other people's thoughts on this.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Florian, but one of your concerns with the reverse tunnel was the scalability. So if you're trying to, CAPI's managing thousands of clusters, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I think scalability is a problem that we need to solve if we want to, and also possibly disconnected scenarios. For me, this somewhat goes hand in hand. Like when the management cluster is in a different network than the workload cluster, it might be more likely that copy can't actually reach those endpoints. So we don't want to block up all the reconciler threads in copy, waiting for those. So I think from that perspective, an evented model would scale probably better. But yeah, there are also obvious downsides with the current architecture of copy to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess one I guess bonus from a provider implementation point of view is that most of the providers use the remote package, so a lot of the changes would be isolated to that and maybe not seen by the providers themselves, hopefully, potentially, although it's not as always straightforward as that. Okay, yeah, that's all valid points that we need to look at. And I guess another question is, do we see, yeah, so I know you've listed this, the last point here is, does it need to be pluggable? Should we be able to, should a user of CAPI be able to choose how they connect? So obviously the direct connection that is currently done would probably need to continue to be supported potentially. But then, well, maybe that's an assumption as well there. But can they choose between the evented or the reverse proxy, or reverse tunnel? Sorry, that's a bit too early.
Yeah, and I think at a lower level, like what Flo had written down here, like the choice of how you do the communication, I think that is an important one to be able to pluggable as well, because like we've seen instances where some customers want to have something specific, whilst other customers then say, we don't want that at all. So like being able to say, hey, okay, we're gonna like SSH versus connectivity, for example, making that pluggable. I think that would at least be a good option to like figure out how you can interchange that.
Yeah, I mean, I think CAPI kind of already follows this strategy of having like abstractions and then implementing a single abstraction to start with, and then but still leaves room for the future for other implementations.
Yeah, exactly. And like having that default, like what we currently use, be the default that gets used, and then whoever wants to do something else can just start building their own on top of that.
Right. Just because what Richard, I think you also mentioned, should the user even be able to switch between or choose between evented and kind of the synchronous model where we do like request response? I personally think that would be possibly a stretch, because then we have to implement the evented system, and then actually the synchronous request response is probably, or could maybe be, a subset of the evented one, but we would need to go to the evented first. So what I was more thinking here on the last point is that the actual protocol for the tunnel would be good if we can have pluggable.
Yeah.
And it does not even have to be part of copy core, right? Like if we standardize on a protocol, for example, of how copy talks to the to that proxy service, then you essentially can have in that proxy service a front end and a backend layer, and it could be implementer specific then, yeah, to allow multiple different types of connections to the backend of the proxy service, but copy always speaks to the same through the same protocol to the front end of that proxy. Something like that.
Yeah, sounds good to me. So we've got about 7 minutes left. So I guess what do we want to do? So first question is, how often did we want to do these? I initially put bi-weekly, but is that enough? Is bi-weekly enough, or did we want it longer, or more often or less often than that? I don't think we want to do it weekly. That's probably too much, isn't it?
I think bi-weekly makes sense. But we can always, if there's nothing to discuss, we can always just cancel it, I guess. But at least having something that we can have scheduled in, I think would be good.
Yeah, cool.
And if there's something urgent to discuss, we can always do it in a weekly meeting as well, I guess. Like if there's a week that we don't have it and there's something that we need to bring up, we can always have a topic there, or on Slack as well.
I had a related question. Maybe I misunderstood like doodle time zones, but is there a different time that works for everyone? Because it's like I actually have a conflict in meeting. It'd be great to if there was another time.
So there was another time. I think it was on Wednesday. I can dig out the time. It was slightly earlier than it is now, so I think it was like 4 or 4:30 UTC on Wednesday.
Yeah, that's what I saw as well. Wednesday worked for everyone else as well.
Yeah, so yeah, we could change it to that if everyone's happy with that. I guess it's just a lot of meetings then. So potentially the other feature group, and then release team meeting, and then the CAPI meeting. But yeah, if it is easier for everyone, and Fridays is also not great for people in Europe because it's the start of the weekend, isn't it, by now? So we could change it to Wednesdays if that was better at the time when the doodle that had the same amount of people accepting.
Would work for me.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take it as it. So should we also capture actions in here?
So that's 4:30 UTC, you said, right? So
yeah, I'd have to check what the responses were.
Yeah, I think that would be roughly 7:30 for us. So
8:30, right?
Oh,
we met at 5 today, right?
Yeah,
5 UTC.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
That would be half an hour earlier than today.
Cool.
So
The will that change with summer and winter time.
yeah, I did schedule it on Pacific time just because then it'll move with the CAPI meeting as well. Yeah, it's just a bit easier that way around.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Does England have time zone shifts?
Yeah, it does, and annoyingly, it's a week before or after the US. So there is this. Yeah.
But US might not do it starting like next year, so it may just be all mixed up.
Oh,
yeah, I think Canada. I don't think Canada's doing it either anymore. It gets weird.
Oh, really? Did we stop? Because I know Canada, they were talking for it to stop it for a long time, and then they always said we wait on the US, and the US never changed.
Yeah, I think this was the last switch that we had recently. So.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I wonder if we're going to follow suit as well. I'll have a look. But yeah, I'd love to know the reasons for that. But yeah, it's probably outside the scope of this It's cool. So start document capture. Oh. So did we actually want to start splitting some of the areas up for investigation and just research, I guess, between us? Or did we just want to just sort of look at the use cases and some of the options in the document and start, I guess, familiarizing ourselves with the different options and then go from there?
I mean, we did some research internally in terms of like high-level options, and I think other people also had already some prototypes here from this group. Was it you guys, Dimitri?
Yeah, we've done, it's kind of private prototype, but yeah, we have done some research before.
Right. So I think there is already quite a lot of knowledge around that topic in this group. So maybe we can kind of publish these things to some extent and make it shareable so that we can start a discussion to get towards a proposal.
Yeah, sounds good. So, I guess it's going to be gather together current already done into a doc. Maybe that's the action. Maybe that's the action item, because there's a few other people on the thread that commented that they've done different things. I know people from like Spectro Cloud as well have done something similar with FRP. So yeah, we could just, that's a good idea. And I know some people within SUSE are also looking at this and have been looking at things like the connectivity and things like that. So yeah, so we could do that.
A few very high-level questions. Like, is the typical form to create a Word doc or like a Google doc for those kind of proposals so that we can collaborate more easily?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So we need to then share this with the feature group and link in the notes. Yeah. So did someone want to do that, or someone take that action, or I can do it and then share it with the group? Happy either way.
Organizationally, is it just like somebody creates that doc in their private Google account and shares it, or is there some kind of
basically you create in your own Google account, you share it with the SIG cluster Lifecycle Google group as commenter, and then normally then you add the authors separately as editors.
Okay, sure, I can do that.
Yeah, some people also like to have this one on as well. Anyone with a link can view as well. So
right.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So if we, that'd be awesome if you could do that. Then we can do this. Then we can all do this gathering the research into that. Then, can't we? How does that sound as actions? Does that capture everything? And then with the move to Wednesday, so that'll probably be, should we do a week and a half instead of 2.5 weeks? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And shall we also create like a GitHub issue or something just to have a form of discussion and tracking the progress on the proposal, or?
That's an interesting one, because there are various issues around, aren't there, that are sort of related,
right.
like this one here. So I think this is the one that actually sort of kick-started this off, really, isn't it? So yeah, right. I don't know if we need another issue, but
yeah,
I guess
No,
when we come,
good point. We should not create 10.
yeah, and then we just gather them all together. Can't we? Maybe we should reference them all within the proposal, because I think there are others around, so we know to close those when and if and when we do this work.
Sounds good.
Cool. Is this the one? Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's about half an hour. Did anyone else want to discuss anything? Daylight saving reasons? Ah, cool. Cool. We could probably call this meeting to a close. Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, it's great to see everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Take care.
Bye.
See ya.
Later.
Bye.
See you.